Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Teach, Stick, Repeat. My name is Dylan.
And my name is Hayden. Dylan, where are your arms? Where's the enthusiasm?
Listen, there's been a few weeks in a row now where it's been mentioned how I throw my arms out at the start of the podcast. I know that we're on video and stuff, we're on YouTube and Spotify, but I just felt a bit conscious, a bit self-conscious.
Oh mate, you're right.
No, I'm fine, I'm fine.
It's okay.
Listen, I'm over it. It's all good.
You can be yourself.
I'll be a shell of myself because of the way you treat me. It's fine. No problem whatsoever.
I'm just going to go back and cut all the clips out of this podcast where you've told everyone that you do all the work and I'm nothing. I'm nothing to you. I'm just the co-host.
Okay, listen. This is something we need to mention because we've made our own Instagram account. So maybe we'll actually link this down. Should we do a bit of self-promotion?
Why
not?
Okay.
We've made our own personal, professional Instagram accounts. Like, how would you describe this? Because I have an Instagram account that's private, obviously. We have the Teach, Sleep, Repeat podcast Instagram account, which we put loads of stuff on. We've made this like kind of middle ground where maybe some more personal stuff that we're getting on with in the world of education, etc. So I'm Mr. Dylan Price, and you came up with a really interesting option after you saw mine, and you went for
Mr. Hayden Stevens.
Oh right, exactly the same. Yeah, nice one.
Yeah, well, it makes sense.
Well, I've got this nice picture where I've got like cut a picture of myself with this classroom background. What picture did you go for?
Are you trying to expose me? I'll expose you. I put a nice picture up as well, and Dylan messaged me saying, "Are you not going to use that one with the background?"
Okay. When you say you had a different picture up, which was nice, what do we mean by nice?
It was the same picture of me with a different background. You were like, "Are you going to use the one with it that I made you?" And I was like, "I forgot you made me this one. Of course I will. Thank you for controlling my life, Dylan."
That's no problem. It's just much, much better. So my prediction for the next year is on your Instagram page, you will post absolutely nothing.
Yeah. What? Okay. Do cross posts count?
Yeah. Okay. We'll do some cross posting.
Do they count?
Fine. Yes, they count.
Okay, that's fine. There'll be more than zero then. There'll be more than zero on there.
Anyway, go and follow us. Go follow our Instagram. All that good stuff. And do you know what you can do before we crack on with this? You can leave us a review.
Absolutely.
Every time we ask, we get a big bump in reviews, and it's so good. I'm so grateful. But then we forget to ask for a couple of weeks, and it kind of just stays the same. So I'm doing it now. Leave us a review on whatever platform you listen on. But Hayden, we've chatted enough now.
No, do you know what, Dylan? I'm going to come back because you kind of forgot the whole point here, which was you were going to take the mick out of me for writing co-host in my biography. Why is that so funny? I am a co-host of this podcast, right?
No, because I wrote host. So that's the joke there. Yeah. I was ready to move on before even getting to the point of that whole thing. Yeah, so in my bio, it says host of the Teach, Sleep, Repeat podcast. In your bio, which you copied off me anyway, but still copied it incorrectly because you're co-host.
Modest.
So all I can think of now is Michael Scott and Dwight Schrute from The Office. I'm assistant regional manager. You're assistant to the regional manager.
No, you're regional manager. I'm assistant to the regional manager. We were joking earlier that you're the co-host and I'm the assistant to the co-host.
Right, okay. And then the host is just, I don't know, Alistair Campbell from that one time he was on. I don't know. Anyway.
Replacing me.
Either way, last week was SATs. Let's actually talk about something to do with education, shall we? You're a year 6 teacher. We talked a little bit last week about top tips for SATs and getting through the week with your children, etc. So now it's done. Any reflection you want to talk about? And also maybe a bit of a plug for something?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not going to talk too much about the SATs. Firstly, the embargo's not been lifted yet anyway, so we can't actually remotely talk about the content. Fair enough. And we are going to be doing an episode soon with the wonderful Sophie Bartlett, who's been on
Missy B.
Missy B. She's been on the podcast a few times. She's become a really good friend of ours. Yeah. I guess originally from the podcast.
Really good friend of mine.
Really good friend of the host. The co-host does sometimes get involved in the conversations. I'm allowed in every now and then, aren't I, to chat with you guys. Sometimes, rarely, probably once or twice a year.
Yeah.
But we have got an episode coming up with her. So once that embargo is lifted, check it out because she is like the analysis person for the SATs. We're going to be picking her brain. She's going to be picking my brain as a person who is involved in the SATs. Dylan will sort of be around as well in that episode. And we'll be talking all about the SATs. Now, it'll be actually, in all seriousness, it'll be good to get. It will actually be really nice to have 3 different heads because we'll have Sophie with her analysis, me, I was involved in the SATs heavily, and then obviously you in completely clueless. But outside of the SATs, it'll be good to have your perspective on it all as well.
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to that. So in general, anything that popped out from the week that you wanted to talk about?
I've got one story I wanted to share with you, and it was from SATs week, but it's obviously not about the content. I'm just going to make that really clear. So classic. Every single year, right? You think it's all going perfectly smoothly. Our head of year put in so much work to make sure that the SATs timetable was clear. Everyone knows where they are. It's all really good.
She does a cracking job at that.
She does a cracking job. She put so much time into it, probably more than we even needed, but it was there as a safety net for all of us, and it did make it very smooth. However, last test of the week, everything has been completely smooth up to this point, and one of the kids who was in my room of testing fell off a wall at break time like 3 minutes before the SAT started and like really sprained her arm or something. Like she was in enough pain where it was enough discomfort.
Her writing arm?
Yeah, writing arm. It was enough discomfort where she was like, I can't just sort of brush this off. Like she was upset and things. And there was just a small part of me where I was like, for like a split second, my first thought was, oh no, that's terrible for the SATs.
Wow.
And I feel like I'm pretty good at just being like, this is just the SATs. I don't ultimately care that much. I care more about the kids. But even just for a second, my first thought was, oh no, what are we going to do? Because now she's not going to be able to do her SATs exam, which is so much more important than the fact that she's literally crying in pain in front of me. And it did make me think, God, it's so easy to get sucked in, isn't it, to this world of just like data first, data. These children are just numbers. That's the pressure that we talk about a lot with the SATs that we are critical of.
You've summed that up perfectly because I was guilty of it just then. You said she fell over and sprained and really hurt her arm, and my first question was her writing arm.
Yeah, exactly.
What? It's so ingrained. And you know, people might argue, well, yeah, because you're thinking about the SATs right now, but that is so true that I guess we're in that system where that ultimately is the most important thing. Yeah. And that takes a back.
So people sort of delivered, like first aid came in and all that, and they were like, we think she's okay. She's a bit upset still because it's just happened, but we're going to sit her in, you know, she's coming to your test room anyway. We're going to get started. And I was sort of thinking, okay, you're kind of just leaving a crying child here with me, but
who's in pain.
You're saying she's all right, you've checked it out, and I do trust them. And then that we was getting ready to start the test, and I started the timer, and she was just like, she tried to write some stuff, and she was like, I can't do it hurts too much, and she got upset again. And I was like, I genuinely was like, for a second, I was like, I don't know what to do because I've not been in this exact situation before. So obviously our head of year, who's wonderful and has read all of the guidelines and all that framework and everything, knew exactly what to do. It was absolutely fine. We took her straight out of the room and she had a scribe. So we had like people on tap.
So you can make that choice immediately.
You can make it, for emergencies you can. Right, obviously you do a lot of, with SATs, you have to do a lot of pre-work.
That's what I thought,
like applying for all sorts of things for children to have transcribes, readers, prompts and all this stuff. But there are obviously like situations where you can write down on a form like, this happened in the SATs, by the way. It all goes off as evidence to show that you've done the right thing.
Oh no, every single child needed a scribe suddenly. They all fell off a wall. We were doing wall climbing before the test and they all fell off.
And I accidentally pushed the wall really hard by accidentally.
Now they need people to scribe and do the test for them.
Yeah. But that's why they do it, I guess, because there is that risk, isn't there?
Yeah, completely.
If you've got a scribe, it'd be so much easier for a scribe to underhandedly or really explicitly be like, oh, you sure you think that answer?
Not writing something immediately when you're like...
those little hints. But she went out and had a scribe in a separate area. She was fine. Like her arm was okay. Good. But I just felt so bad for her in that minute. And I felt even more guilty that for a moment... the majority of my thought was not just, is this child okay? Right. This other stuff is ultimately meaningless, really. Yeah. And I was more worried about, what the SATs arrangements I need to do it right so that she can do her SATs. We can't have her not doing her SATs. She might get expected.
Be careful, Hayden, because if this does get clipped out and put on social media, there will be plenty of people lining up to tell you how bad of a teacher you are for saying that the SATs are meaningless. Yeah. How else can they prepare? This is the snowflake generation.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But you know what happened though? Because the other team will be saying, how dare you not think of this child as holistic first? It doesn't matter they were doing the SATs. Think of her.
It turns out putting yourself out there on social media is just opening yourself up to a lot of angry people.
And it is up to you how that gets clipped. So I'll leave that in your hands.
Yeah, I'm saying this. I clip this thing and I get all these comments. I'll clip it. I'll do it again. I'll do it again.
Yeah, you'll clip it. But anyway, other than that, like SATs was all cool. It was genuinely, other than that, a really smooth week. The kids seemed cool. We did Breakfast Club in the morning.
Were they happy?
Them out. They were happy. Honestly, my role in Breakfast Club, I was like a jester. I was basically just going around to the classes with other staff like on toast and other staff like giving drinks out, and I was just walking around trying to make the kids smile and make them laugh and I could pick out those few kids. I could just tell they're feeling anxious.
And you made it worse for them.
Made it much worse.
Oh god, this teacher's in my face constantly.
You feeling a bit anxious? You feeling a bit anxious about this test?
Watch me juggle. I don't want to.
You're trying to revise? No. And that was just my role really for the first few days. But
you play the jester card.
Played the jester card, and I think that's what they needed. That's what they needed. They needed that more than anything. You could say.
Yeah.
You
absolutely.
could say. You could not. Anyway, how was your week? And how's it like? Good. I guess, being in the school as well, the wider impact of SATs. Obviously, you're not up there doing the SATs, but there was a lot of rules and things in place. Did it affect you much?
I mean, you're thinking of someone other than year 6. That's incredible. Wow, yeah, we do exist still in SATs week.
Yeah, time's up. No one cares.
No, it does have a huge impact, SATs, on the whole school. no matter where you're at, because at the end of the day, year 6, when they're doing the SATs, need every single pair of hands they can possibly get. Whether it's the teaching assistants going up to be scribes for children, or the SLT are there literally administering the paper a lot of the time. I know our assistant head was heavily involved in that. So even things down to, we stream in maths and English a little bit and have smaller classes because we have extra qualified teachers in the morning. That didn't happen because that extra adult had to go up and help. So, we weren't in our normal sets for maths and English. And there were sometimes we were when there wasn't any tests going on. So, for example, on the Monday, I think it was just GPS on the Monday. So that meant that the first session, the test wasn't happening in year 6 because you could do the test in the second session after break time.
Yeah.
So we had lots of adults in the morning, then halfway through they all went. And the timetables go all skew-if. Break time's like half an hour later. Lunchtime, you might not actually get out to lunch on time because for certain reasons the test overran because it didn't start at the right time and all that kind of stuff. Essentially, you just got to be really malleable. And this was a big thing we mentioned before about how to prepare for summer term is being malleable in all of the respects we talked about in terms of trips and stuff. But this is the ultimate version of that, which is at the end of the day, you just have to suck it up and do it. I don't think it's a problem at all.
No.
I don't think there's any other way of doing it. I think it's absolutely fine and it's the right thing to do because the adults need to be in that room. And you know what I actually loved doing this week? It was almost like a flipped coin because I want to kind of talk about behaviour as well. But I absolutely loved just having my class all day.
Oh, that's nice.
And a lot of schools do that anyway. So the class with the teacher all day. But like I said, with ours, we go to different pupils, go to different teachers for maths and English. I really, really, really just purely enjoyed teaching my class some maths, teaching all of my class some English, and teaching all of my class in the afternoon some art. So I did what I see as like a really traditional primary school day.
Yeah, very traditional.
And I really, 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 really enjoyed it.
Why though? Like, what is it about that made you enjoy it? Is it just because it was a novelty? Like you don't get to see your class as much, or was there something more deeper?
I think it was both. I think when you stream, right? So for example, in maths, being completely open and honest, in maths we do stream, not completely. So we don't rank the children in file order and then there's the top percent there in the class, there's the next percent. But we do stream in a way where children who need more support are in a smaller group and have more adult support in there. That's the extent of our streaming. And I have been heavily involved in those groups over pretty much my whole career because I love maths. It's a strong point of mine and I can help those children who struggle with maths to become inspired by it or want to do it and just get better in general. And what I miss out on a lot of the time in maths is, as a teacher, I loved being in a room with 32 children with completely different backgrounds in maths, completely different abilities in maths. And I loved the challenge of teaching them all one mathematical concept. Because I had some children who finished in 2 minutes and I could use my brain to be like, oh, amazing. Why don't you go and create this type of question? Or you're going to be the teacher now and I want you to mark this piece of work I've done over here. Here you go. Why am I wrong? Dive into that, explain it, use your reasoning. Okay, problem solving. Let's think of this task. While simultaneously having a group of children who were struggling to read a pictogram. So, the breadth. That to me was something I was like, oh, I can't wait to sink my teeth into this. I'm going to try and help as many children as I possibly can. It was so different to what I'm doing normally, which is very focused on children who are narrowly grouped together in their ability. I loved that ability to kind of push some children on, help some children, let them crack on. It was fun.
I think a lot of teachers would find that quite terrifying though. Because there's a lot, isn't it? You're kind of saying because you're so competent with maths and maths is your thing that you sort of relish that challenge. I think for a lot of teachers that would be quite overwhelming because you've got so many different abilities going on at the same time.
But for a lot of children, that is normal. A lot of classes, a lot of classes do not. It's very mastery approach to not stream. I get the arguments again. We've done whole episodes before on streaming or not. So but again, I didn't want it to be like, wow, aren't I a superhero with a cape having this? No, this is completely normal for a huge percentage of the population.
Yeah, sure.
And I really enjoyed doing it, basically, and I relished it. And I think the other flip side of it was there is definitely something to be said as a positive when you have your children all of the time for all of your lessons, because it does really open up that cross-curricular thing a lot more. If you're talking to a child in the morning about their presentation in maths, when it comes to them writing their date in English, you can just make those links and say, right, what did we say about the way you're forming these numbers in this date?
Sure.
Let's keep up presentation, because in maths, you just let it slip a bit. I know you're better than that, so I really want to see this now. And then in the afternoon, when we're doing art, again, it's completely different. But you can draw on those little things and you can have that narrative through the day of, okay, guys, come on, let's smash this, because then in English at the end, we'll read a chapter of our book. Whereas you miss that a bit when you stream a lot and some kids are dropping in and out.
Yeah, I never know how I feel about that one because I totally appreciate that's a huge pro. But I also find a pro the other way around, like, is the fact that you can kind of get that from other teachers as well. Like, for example, I'd say my attention to the children's presentation is probably not actually that great. Like, I do forget about it quite a lot because I'm so focused on just the learning. I'm like, it's not as high priority maybe in my brain naturally. And I do find that when the children go off to other teachers and come back and they kind of get slightly higher expectations of their presentation, it does kind of kick me into gear sometimes. Being like, oh yeah, Christ, yeah, actually, yeah, next door they've been saying this. Yeah, actually, guys, what am I talking about? No, we do need to have these high expectations. They've been doing it in their class. We need to be doing it as well. And I do fear that if I had all my children all day, they'd actually miss out on some of the benefits of the qualities of other teachers that I don't have.
I think that's a huge pro. I'm not even disagreeing with that completely. I think there are pros and cons. I don't want anyone to think right now I'm saying this is the way to do things.
Yeah.
I just enjoyed that variety of it's a new challenge. And I think there's, like you said, there's pros and cons to everything. A big thing for us recently, I don't know about everyone else, I'm sure it's the case based on all the research I've seen, but spelling at the minute in this, it's just horrendous.
Yeah,
like I'd say post-COVID, from my point of view, that's the thing I've seen fall off a cliff. I mean, it wasn't great anyway, to be honest with you, spelling, but like, my goodness me, the baseline, the average speller ability to spell is very low across the board. Yeah. And so, again, we're trying to combat that as much as we can. We introduced explicit spelling lessons, whereas before we do it as part of English, we wouldn't not teach spelling, but we introduced last year specific spelling lessons on streamed groups. So some children were still doing phonics.
Yep.
Okay, who still needed that just little push. A lot of children, we were like, hey, there's no point doing phonics anymore. We're going to push them onto some very basic spelling rules and some high frequency words maybe. And then there was a group of children who were quite solid with that. And actually they could, and this was the top set. The top set were just accessing year 3-4 spelling rules. Like, the top set was just doing what they should be doing.
Yes,
like, that's where we're at.
That's how skewed the whole lot, the whole cohort was. I find spelling is one of those few areas of the curriculum in general where I just don't know what the solution is.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've spent my whole 10 years in this job constantly thinking, God, kids can't spell very well, can they?
Yeah.
And then I've seen loads of different approaches and none of them really seem to work. And the only times I ever see it sort of work at schools are when they have to like greatly sacrifice time from something else. And I'm like, I just can't. I feel like there's just not an approach to spelling.
Yeah.
That is like quite casual and doesn't take up too much time from other areas that then suffer.
It's hard.
That actually works. I just don't know what the solution is.
Well, this is the point I was making in terms of we went down this road of it's streamed. So I'd have children come to me just for spelling. So it wasn't even like we're saying before, I had them for English and spelling and there was that kind of ribbon that ran through it.
You've gone even further.
It's like I had children come in for 20 minutes every day from different English groups, who then at the end went off to their English group. Whilst the move towards explicit spelling teaching based on what the children needed was a positive, I think, and we saw a movement there, actually there was a drop off again, like you're saying. As soon as you do something else drops off because there was no consistency then in terms of I'd get children from a different group.
Right.
I wouldn't necessarily know exactly what spelling rule they're on because it's so bespoke to them. And then I'd miss that string that I'm saying we get from having our children.
Yeah, because where do you embed spellings? In the writing lessons immediately afterwards. So, and if you know what they've been doing, really implicitly, then obviously you'll use it.
So what we're doing now is a middle ground, again, changing it constantly where we have our English sets, okay? And we do spelling, a full spelling lesson. It's a bit chunkier once a week with our English sets.
Right.
So with the whole group of abilities, but we're like, okay, we're just going to go through these spelling rules. We differentiate, obviously, so children kind of get it, might maybe do some work with root words or suffixes or prefixes or putting them into sentences.
But you're staying in your English
set. But we're in our sets now because then every single day as a starter, we go back to that spelling rule.
Right.
So Monday we learn a spelling rule.
Yeah.
Tuesday starter, 5 minutes, use that spelling rule. Wednesday starter, 5 minutes, use that spelling rule.
That makes sense.
Use that spelling rule. Then next week we'll go to a new one, do the same again, and eventually over the term, those Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, maybe even more towards the end of the week, we say, cool, okay, remember from 3 weeks ago we did this?
Yeah.
Add ED to this root word.
So can I clarify? Do you still also do set spelling groups as well?
No.
So you're going, so how's that middle ground?
So we've
just gone back to class?
We only set for children who need phonics. They're the ones who don't do it.
Okay, so that's your middle ground.
So the middle ground now is that, okay, we're all learning spelling rules.
Yeah.
We're all going to go through this exact set. Some children might be really good at spelling these words. Cool, we need to differentiate for them because it is going to be a waste of their time otherwise. Okay, but I'm going to be honest, the vast majority can just do the spelling rules they need to. And we dip into Key Stage 1 spelling rules.
Yeah.
We dip into that basic spelling rules because they're not consistent enough.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at now. It could change again in the future.
But you've pulled out the children who are significantly below that couldn't even access that level.
Exactly.
Because they still need to be learning their phonics.
If there's children who honestly can't spell at,
yeah,
I'm not going to do an ED spelling rule with them.
No.
It's just pointless.
Yeah.
If there's children who can't form the letter D,
Yeah.
Why am I teaching them how to do ED?
Yeah.
Like it's important, but they can do some high frequency
Let's
words.
learn shun. Well,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. So we did shun recently.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a handful of children where I'm like, it's kind of pointless. But then what we do is we constantly go back to those big spelling rules, like that are linked to tense, like ED, ING. So they're the big ones where we can embed spelling rules that kind of flow through all spelling. But that's where we're having an impact now. And I think I'm having way more of an impact because I've taught them the spelling. And we can have I hate the word non-negotiable, but it really is a high standard of, I'm sorry, guys, we've done shun this week. Any words where you've got the shun sound, you might get the beginning wrong, but you have to get the end right because we've literally done it.
We've just done shun.
And that accountability, I think, is working quite well. But it's such a slow, hard road. I would love to hear anyone who thinks they've cracked spelling.
Yeah.
Because all the spelling things out there, they're just rules again. And it's ways, and I'm like, okay, I know I teach spelling rules, but it's still not having a huge impact.
It's almost the wider approach that I want to know.
Right.
That's been done really well. It's like, okay, how do I apply this the most effectively in school? What like passive things do I have to do? How much time should I be giving it? What should we be doing with homework? Is there a parental expectation? Is there a point where you just have to go, it's so out of our hands because so much of it relies on parental expectation and like how much they do that actually, depending on your catchment, this approach might not even work or work really well for you. Like there's so many factors where I'm like, I just don't know.
Have you noticed a correlation between your quality spellers and the amount they read?
Oh yeah, big time.
Right.
Big
so
time. I think that's very straightforward.
So we're here like, oh, how can we just change this slightly and do 10 minutes instead of 5 and have these groups? Okay. Ultimately, 90% of the shift is going to be what vocabulary you're exposed to all of the time in your home life as well, and how much you're reading.
Exactly.
So if we actually want to make a huge difference, this is why teachers bang on about reading so much, because it affects everything.
Yeah, that's the one thing I'd say I'm very passionate about is the impact we can have on encouraging children to want to read for themselves. And you can do it in a way where it's like you're almost breaking down the boundaries of, it doesn't even matter if your family's pushing you or not. I just want to my job is to try and get you to love reading so much that even if your auntie and your dad and your mum or whoever it is that looks after you, even if they're not big readers, you still want to go home and read your book because you love it. Like that's where we can have a huge impact in terms of enjoyment. And it all just comes back to just reading for pleasure.
Yeah.
And it's such a simplistic thing that I feel like in this, in this day and age of education where everything has to be unbelievably complex and we have to be able to measure it to the nth degree, we do kind of start think like we've talked about this loads of times before, that where it's like, oh, simple things are bad though, because everything's so complex and we're so professional that we can't have simple things. It's like, no, do you know what? It is, to me, with reading particularly, as simple as get the kids to like it. That's it. Do whatever you need to do to get the kids to like it. Stop telling them that their word count is too low. Yeah. Stop telling them that, they shouldn't be reading that. But I mean, there's a degree you can do that. But sometimes we say, don't read that book because you've read lots of those genre of books
Tom
recently.
Gates book
we want you to have a different genre now. It's like, okay, there is a conversation to encourage them to read different genres, but for Christ's sake, they're enjoying reading. Just do whatever you can to get them to enjoy reading. And so much comes from it. So much for writing, so much for spelling, so much for the underpinning parts of writing, like grammar and punctuation. Is crazy. The correlation is obviously really strong. I was giving my class a pep talk, before SATs, and just being like, I said to them, because I've got, obviously we stream and I have a really high ability set, and they are amazing class. And I've repeatedly said to them, they always say, you say this, say it every class. I said, you're the most amazing class at English that I've ever had. You're so good at English.
I've never ever met a child who's proficient in all of the different aspects of English. That isn't therefore because they're a good reader.
Yeah.
The only time I've ever seen some slight discrepancies is in GPS. I've seen sometimes some children who reluctant readers, don't really like reading, hate writing.
Yeah.
Typically a few boys I can think of in my head absolutely adore maths and rules and are amazing at maths. I have seen them apply that to GPS and be like, well, okay, I know what an adjective is. That's the adjective.
Yeah,
and
black and white.
Rules, black and white.
Yeah,
but in terms of that tricky, like spelling is so tricky. It's grey area. Writing is so tricky. That only comes from that deep embedded nuance of reading so much. And again, I think that's where as teachers, we just step back and actually we can have much more of a powerful impact on a child's outcomes by encouraging that reading. And that seems so basic and obvious. And like, but you aren't working 10 times a week to make some new plan on how they can do the spelling from all the PowerPoints we've made. Listen, encourage that would have a bigger impact than switching up how you're delivering your spelling to a new way, which you're going to change in 6 months anyway. Still do all that because we're professionals and we're going to obviously react to things. But realistically, what's going to move the needle there is longer term, big, huge things that we can't change overnight.
And it is long term. That's the point, isn't it? You summarized my point nicely. I went off on a bit of a tangent there, but that is ultimately what I was trying to say, is that reading is so important. It's so important. It affects so many other areas. We should absolutely be putting it on a pedestal, how important we deem it to be. So you said at the beginning of this conversation, you never really dived into it, that there was a bit of a flip coin to this, and you said something about behavior, and then you kind of went off on.
Well, so that's the one side of the coin where I really enjoyed it. It was really nice to have my class all day, and I said to them, I feel so lucky to be able to teach you all day, and I was saying how lucky their teachers are to have them, and like you said, just bigging them up, making them feel good.
Make sure you say that how lucky they are to have you as well. You guys are so lucky.
I didn't say that. I just implied that heavily. And anyway, and the other side of it, and I think maybe I'm to blame here, is I've noticed, is it May? Is it a May thing? Is it the end of the year? But behavior is really, 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 really dipping in general, I've got to say. And I love my class. I always get to this point in the year and I'm always like, I love my class. It's like, because you can't spend this long with a class and love children in terms of helping them as much as we do in our jobs and not end up just having a real bond. It's just impossible. It's just really impossible. And I'm always lucky with the classes we get where I'm able to do that. But I just felt, I felt myself more times than ever this week in my head thinking genuinely, oh my God, shut up. Really? Like genuinely in my head, I would never, ever, ever say this to the children, obviously. But you know, when you're just like, I can't believe that you would keep talking as much as we're doing right now when I've asked you I'm so nice. I'm genuinely so nice to these kids and I give them so many opportunities to do the right thing and very, very strict because it doesn't take much normally. If I'm very nicely asked them firmly and they understand that, they stop straight away. But I just feel like is this a thing in general? I'm seeing it online a lot as well, where behavior just starts to move and I'm just like, okay. A more inexperienced to me would really take this personally and be like, oh my God, I am failing. I need to change what I'm doing right away. I did a stupid thing this week, very, very silly, of I had my sunglasses in and I wore them and the kids were like, oh, you look cool. And I was like, okay, this is going to be a thing this week. And I would give my sunglasses to children working really hard. And I'd be like, right, who's going to get the sunglasses this time? Giving them out and stuff. That excited them. But like, oh my God, it made them so happy. And then they were all working really hard because they wanted the glasses. It was like a win-win-win for me. More work, happy children. At one point, side note, the head teacher was showing someone around.
Oh no!
Right? Came to the door and was like, "It's Mr. Price, the maths lead," and they're giving all the spiel he normally gives. And I just heard my head teacher go, "Excuse me, do we need to be wearing those sunglasses?" to one of the children.
Oh no!
Like the kid was like, "Oh God!" Like,
oh, that's so awkward.
And I learned, but I had to say, I was like, "Oh no, sorry." That's me. That's mine. He's earned them for working really hard. But again, luckily, because our head teacher's so normal and cool,
he just assumed.
He immediately was like, "Oh, nice one." He was just laughing. He was like, "Oh, good job," and then he carried on. But like, I felt bad at that point. But anyway, my point is, I'm doing things like this. Hayden, what do you think? Is it my fault because I'm doing things like this? Can I then sit here and be like, "Oh, but behavior was so bad," or is it something else?
I think it's personally all exclusively your fault. No, I'm joking.
Genuinely, because layers. I want to know if you think probably doing that probably had an impact.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Realistically, you probably could have done things differently, and their behavior outcomes would have been different, right? I reckon. I don't know because I don't want to discourage things like this because I think what you doing that with the sunglasses is what creates real bonds. It might just be that you need to rein it in a bit more than you would have done 6 months ago because 6 months ago they were still a bit more like those relationships weren't quite as formed as they are. They didn't really know how to test the waters, whereas they now know you extremely well and they probably know exactly what they can get away with, what they can do, and maybe they just took advantage of you in that situation. I don't see it as a huge problem. I'm sure you don't see it as a huge problem either.
No, it's just frustrating. I never felt like I don't often feel frustrated. I feel like I've got control over this. I have control of this behavior, and I know if it goes wrong, I can say, "Excuse me, thank you." But like, but this week it was very much like I was in my head. I was like, "Okay, this is where I feel like a fraud," and I've talked about this before because my usual, thank you, like because I rely so much on that understanding and that respect and that bond that we build up. As soon as that doesn't work, like
you got nothing to go to.
The kids are being nice, the kids are being lovely, right? I really like my class. Then honestly, they're just chatting when I'm like, "Don't talk." As soon as it flipped and I was like, "Oh, I am a fraud," and I think that's a bad thing to think. I can't help but go to that.
Okay, I'm in the same position, by the way. I'd say at this point in the year, I consistently say that every year, and I do partly put it down to because I do have quite a friendly relationship with the kids, but I don't feel that bad. I just don't feel too bad about it. I think it depends on what you do next. Now you've identified it. I think that's where the experience comes in. What are you going to do about it? Yeah. What are you going to do next week now? Because I know you, and I know that you will probably go in now obsessively thinking about the fact that, right, they were really taking the mick last week and actually completely took advantage of my goodwill and good nature that we've built up all this year. And I know you'll go in and make sure they understand that. And from a mutual respect point of view, I can imagine you'll go in and do some sort of talk of like, guys, last week, right? You know how we've built up this mutual respect and I really care about you and you guys really care about me. You really took advantage of that of last week and it's made me not want to do anything fun with you this week. So for this week only, we're going to reset ourselves and actually I'm not going to be handing out the sunglasses because you took advantage of it. We're not going to be spinning the wheel over here. You took advantage of it. We're not going to get Mr. Stevens' face in here and print them into little cards and throw them at him.
I love how you're low-key exposing all of the nonsense I do with my class. Exactly.
But I don't know, to me...
I wouldn't want to stop doing that. That's my point.
No, but you can use it as a tool, I think. I think you can say, actually... Just to remind you kids, right? I was giving you something. I was giving you this thing here as like a sign of respect. And all you had to do back was show me the same sign of respect. You've kind of broken that agreement that we've all sort of come to as a group of people. It's not about your authoritarian approach and their children, silly children can't think for themselves. You tell them what to do. It's we're all people here. We've kind of agreed how we speak to each other. You've broken that agreement. And I'm gonna retract myself a little bit from that as well now until you understand again, because we're teaching them the ideas of like socializing, right?
Yeah, I agree. It's that idea of, you know, I still think our job as teachers is to teach more than just the curriculum. Like there's a lot of people out there who do push back when we post stuff about this and they'll be like, nah, my job's to deliver the curriculum. That's it. I'm like, okay, right. All right. If a child's being rude and doesn't have table manners when they're eating lunch in the lunch hall, okay, you could sit there and say to me, that's not my job. I'm there to deliver the maths curriculum and then the English and then the afternoon curriculum. Okay. Right, but it is though, isn't it? Like, but it is like, you know, part of your job can be to instill these values, and it's the same thing there with behavior and stuff. What I want to teach them, I don't want them to teach them, you listen to me because I'm in charge and that's the end of it. I don't think that molds good society, people in our society.
I agree.
I think what would mold good people in our society is to understand that there's a mutual agreement coming on here. I'm in a position where I know more about this thing than you, and that's why I'm your teacher at the end of the day, but you're still a person. That here is the benefit of acting this way. When you act that way, you don't get the nice things that you think we get all the time. There's 5 different paths we can go down, and it is also down to you which path we manage to get ourselves down. And you're absolutely right. That is what I'd go to. And again, I want people listening. I'm nearly 10 years into this job and I still have these self-doubts. And we talked real about this before. And you might be 15 years in, 20 years in, 1 year in, and you're having these doubts. You need to know it's normal. And actually, it's good practice to reflect on that kind of thing. And just back yourself a bit, because I think I would never, although I say all that, I would never choose to not be silly in those moments or have those. Because to me, that's what defines me as a teacher. That's how I build that bonds with my class. It works for me. But there's going to be pros and cons to every aspect. What I don't want is someone coming along and hearing me say this and go, see, that's why you've got to be authoritarian from the top and never smile till Christmas and not give them an inch. Well, I could sit here and say how that's got cons as well.
Yeah, massive cons, because I tell you what, something I do and it has a ton of power, right? In those situations where I have built up these nice relationships and maybe someone is really disrespectful later on in the year, is I can say to them things like, that really hurt my feelings. And it actually means something to them because they're people and I've built a real relationship with them. And if I had an authoritarian approach the whole way through, they wouldn't care.
No.
They wouldn't care. They'd probably snigger about it and laugh. Hurt his feelings. We hurt his feelings. We hate him. We just do as are told because... I'm sorry, I'm getting into my mind. We just hate him. We hate Mr. Stevens. It's my dreams.
We really do expose in this podcast your need for validation.
No, it's not that. It's not that.
And then they'll say that he hates me.
Yeah. But in serious point, right? Authoritarian approach is like you're just masking it. The kids are just pretending to be nice to you because you've told them they have to behave this way. Right. I'd much prefer a classroom where the kids actually just like me. Like, for example...
you're not helping yourself.
No, it's real.
But what I mean is, it's just the way you said it. You could have framed it like a classroom where they choose to do it because we built a bond.
Well, you know what I mean.
I prefer when they like me.
Yeah, for real, not
like
fake.
Me.
Yeah, no, you know what I mean.
No, but I'm just going to really clarify it. What you mean is they like being in the room. They see you as another person. They want to do the right thing.
It's mutual respect. So when you say things like, "Oh, it actually hurt my feelings as a person," they're like, "Oh, crikey, okay, I'll think about that because I don't actually want to do that." Yeah. Just one more example. The other day, it's with me now, but we've got a job share. We have job shares, and my job share's just been off for a couple of weeks for certain reasons. Yeah. And they said, "Oh, when's Miss coming back?" And I said, "Oh, she'll be back next week." And a couple of the kids I saw in the back and went, "Yes!" Aww. And I was like, "Do you know what? I need to share that." I haven't shared that with her yet, but I keep meaning to text her because that to me is like, doesn't that just show that there's a real relationship? They actually they value her as a human being. Mm-hmm. They just want to know that she's back in the building, so they can have a chat, that she's okay, they can catch up because they miss her. And that to me is what it's all about. And I think, coming full circle, you can have a really good behavior can slip.
Yeah,
it's normal for behavior to slip. It doesn't mean you have to go down to the extremities now. Okay, authoritarian approach is much better. We have to be horribly strict and not make any friendly. No, that's not the way, because there are cons to that which we've just described. It's just now from wisdom, perhaps from time in the game, what you do next is going to have a big impact. Because if you now let them walk all over you. Okay, well then actually they might start losing their respect for you as the leader of the classroom, and then things can go horribly wrong. So it's all about now what you do next and how you helped them to learn that what they were doing and how they were making you feel is not okay, and your feelings are just as valid as a teacher. That's kind of what I was getting at.
That's lovely, and that they love you,
and they have to all think I'm the best teacher, and I have to be their favorite, or it's not worth it.
Right, let's have a quick break. We'll continue a chat. We've got a few emails and some bits and bobs we want to talk about after. I think now's a good time to do a couple of message write-ins that we've received. Okay. So I've got one from Instagram, and it's referencing something we talked about recently. So I'm just going to read the whole thing out to you.
Sure.
Hi, relatively new to the podcast. Firstly, absolutely love it. Always nice to see that.
Thank you.
Your views and points resonate so much with me, and sometimes give me the sort of validation I need when the system infuriates me. Literally what we're trying to do. So that's so nice to read. I love it when you message like that. In the spirit of your funny stories, I couldn't help but laugh about the story of the teacher who asked the children to write their names backwards on their mock stats papers. If you don't know that story, go listen to the last one, because that is just hilarious. It reminded me of a not too dissimilar situation in my NQT year. So, new teacher. These stories always happen with my year 5 class, where for whatever nonsense reason, we had a chat about how girls are called Miss up until they're married, in which case they can choose to become Mrs. And then I got asked, why are boys always Mr. though? And I explained that until about 12ish, actually, boys are technically called Master, which we know. I had loads of bank statements saying Master Price and stuff like that. And I remember the day it changed, and I thought, I'm growing up now. So they had a laugh and then carried on with their morning. Then at lunchtime, I did my usual silly register, and I decided to greet them as Master or Miss. About 3 names in, I realised we had a boy with the surname Bates.
Oh no! That's such a classic! I can't even say it. You can imagine it.
I've never repeated that exercise again.
That is so funny. Do you know what it reminds me of? Do you remember at school, maybe it was just my immature cohort, right? When you used to try and combine the words, a debate in maths. Do you know what I'm talking about? When everyone's go on.
A huge debate.
Sir, what do we call it if we had a debate in this lesson? What do you mean? You know, what's the subject? We had a debate. This is the maths lesson. What would we call it if we had a debate in here and you get them to say it? Honestly, I love it.
The big one for me was like, what if we have a small debate? What if we got loads of people involved? Like a huge, like a mass gathering of people. A mass gathering of people having a debate.
What would we call that?
Yeah, completely. Yeah. That's unbelievable. That's that is, I've had that multiple times. I can't even, do you know what? Because the feeling is so intense of almost embarrassment when that happens.
Yeah.
I know I've done that multiple times, but I actually can't remember what it was that happened. Because that feeling of like, oh my God, what have I done?
Dread.
Where you're like, you've set yourself up to do this silly thing with all these kids.
Yeah.
And you know that it's about to be inappropriate, and you just have to stop. And the kids are like, no, go on, do it. And I'm like, God, the more you think about it, the more you realize why I'm stopping. Yeah. And you have to deflect it.
It's like the amount of stories I've heard in my career. Because I think I'm going to normalize this because it's like, oh, but the amount of stories I've heard from people in my career where they've accidentally sworn. Yeah, they've accidentally sworn, and they've been in the school environment, and they've just for that 1 second of the day, their normal self, adult self has slipped out, and they've said a swear word, and then just like the utter dread that they feel immediately because the child has heard it and gone like, did you just swear? And you think the world's ending, and then actually you realize that it's just a word, and most head teachers are like, yeah, okay.
Have I told you the story of when I did that?
I don't know, maybe.
Like when I was training, I think I may have said the story before. I'll say it again. Before you go to do your PGCE, so I was in my year between university ending when I started my PGCE, you had to go to schools and get a bit of just experience.
Yes,
to get 10 days, I think. So I went into a local primary school, and at one point, I think a child was misbehaving or something. I can't remember, but anyway, I got asked to go outside and play a board game with this child.
I'm already imagining like so many avenues of this.
So me and this child were in the corridor playing snakes and ladders. And obviously I'm I'm just out of university, so I'm still a young adult, and back when I had my competitive edge, and there was I wanted to beat this child at Snakes and Ladders. So I was rolling up and down, Snakes and Ladders, you get to the top of the ladder, blah, blah, blah. We got to the end, we're both on the top row.
Yeah.
So he rolled it and he didn't get exactly to 100. Brilliant. Right. So whatever was happening.
You still had a chance to win.
Top. Yeah. And then I rolled mine, and I rolled a number where I landed on that big fat snake.
On 99 or whatever.
On 99, you go down to 20.
Yeah.
And I remember I did that, and I went, and oh, f***.
Oh, no.
Yeah, right. And then immediately I was like, because this is the first time I've been in school properly. Honestly, I was with a kid, and then she went, "Did you just say?" I went, No, I didn't. He went, "Yeah, you did," and I made up something, and the kid was like, "No, I heard you. You said."
Oh my!
And I was like, "Let's go back into class, shall we?" I had to go and explain. This guy was coming in for experience. Honestly, yeah, I just full on was like, because in my head, that's what I say when I'm losing.
Yeah,
I didn't have that built up professional kind of thing yet.
I bet you were like, that's my career. I haven't even started this career yet, honestly, and it's over.
There's a point where you're just like, have I ruined everything?
Have I done it wrong? Yeah.
But no, I'm 10 years down the line. Look what's happened.
Well, I tell you what, thank you for that story, because that's really funny. I think it's always nice for other teachers to hear that sometimes we do so everyone messes up. Like, no, it's not intentional. It happens sometimes. 100%. But I'm sure you went very red when in that moment, you and this person.
It was hilarious.
Well, we've had an email. So once again, I've intercepted an email. This seems to be becoming a running theme, right? I saw this email, and luckily I was out on my phone when it pinged through. Yeah. I read it, and I immediately replied saying, "Can I use this to read out to Dylan in an episode?" And they said, "Yeah, as long as it's kept anonymous." So I've got to read this whole thing to you.
Isn't it great when they say keep it anonymous? Because I'm like, this is juicy.
Yeah, exactly that.
And I remember, by the way, anyone thinking, are these guys staging these? No, because literally Hayden immediately as well voice noted me and said, "Do not read our emails."
Yeah,
so I
literally did. We was at school, and I think it was on lunch break or something. Yeah. And I said, "Don't read."
I was doing golf club.
Oh yeah, because after school.
I'm at golf. I haven't seen it.
Okay, so you'll like this story though. And when I read this, I thought Dylan's going to love this. So here we go. I'm going to try my best to keep this anonymous because he does use names and things for it. So I'm going to take them out as I go. It says, "Hi guys. Hope you're both well. Keep up the good work of pointing out insane practices. I have something of a perler for you." Ooh, and I was like, "Oh, here we go." I was hooked. Yeah. Well done for hooking me in. For some background, I was a teacher for 7 years and I quit at Christmas. I'll be taking up a post doing some research internationally in August and figured it was worth a last hurrah to respond to an advert I saw for a local school doing exam invigilating. For reference, the school is the mothership of one of these multinational chains. I was reading that slowly because he names it here. I was making sure I didn't read it out. And it seemed like a sensible choice for some steady income, £13 an hour if you're interested. Whilst I get myself prepared for new adventures in the summer. I was like, okay, cool.
Perfect, yeah.
To set the scene, lovely, hot 25-degree day, and I turned out in my absolute finest shirt, tie, and chinos combo. The invigilating went superbly, with seemingly every stereotype hit over the course of the 2-hour English lit paper. A child had a nosebleed, a phone was ringing in a bag, and said bag needed to be removed from the hall. I felt like a bomb disposal expert. Many pens running out of ink, having seemingly written nothing.
See it,
Classic.
Say it, sort it.
I'll tell you what, I'm just that is a thing. That is a thing. My pen doesn't work. Can you show me? Worked fine. Oh no, it's flat on the end. What? It works. Just use the pen. I'm not giving you a new pen for that. Wasting pens. Anyway, this aspect of the job, invigilating, went fine, and I was even thanked for locating the nuisance of a phone with my superb hearing. Being 30 puts you at quite an age advantage, as it turns out. When trying to find a vibrating phone, where I imagine the average age of invigilators was about 65 in the room. So there was older people doing it. So he was the youngest person there by far. On leaving the building, I was approached by a member of staff who had that mischievous SLT glint in her eye. That really made me laugh. An air of arrogance and a sprinkle of thinking that she held a role of significant power and superiority. We all know the type, right? We all know. We call them out on this podcast.
We do. Do you know what she'd say to you? Learn how to pronounce mischievous properly.
That's what she'd say. Yeah. Even the kids tell me that. All right. Mischievous. It's just spelt not like that.
And not pronounced like that either.
No, it is in my world. Like me. Anyway. So here's a bit you're going to like. Okay, ready? Okay. So this is what the SLT... She said, with a half smile, half scowl.
You know what that is.
I need to put a voice...
Can you imagine that? The half smile scowl. I know what that is straight away.
I imagine this person, right? I need to get to adjust this, the voice. The dress code says you should wear a jacket and tie and then ask if you can remove them on a hot day like today.
Oh my God.
He put in brackets, I checked and can confirm it does not say this.
Oh my God, it doesn't even say it. They're the worst of both worlds.
Making up a policy. But there and then, having done no research, he said, I faced a choice. On the one hand, I could leave quietly and just say, "Oh, sorry about that," and just it doesn't matter, who cares, right? Or, and he said, with your two voices acting as my conscience, go out in a blaze of glory with zero consequences, as I didn't want to come back anyway. Too hot and boring as a job. He said, I chose the latter with a renewed sense of IDGAF-ism, which I'm not going to say out loud, if you can work out the acronym yourself. With the hopes and dreams of all those teachers stuck with leaders like this, I thought this was my small chance to challenge the idiocy of daring to allow teachers the autonomy to not wear suit jackets on a day where the temperature was, I repeat, 25 degrees in a school with zero ventilation. I said, oh, that makes absolutely zero sense as a policy, and perhaps that's something that should be looked at by the insert name of the chain here, overlords. How funny is that?
Brilliant.
How funny.
Absolutely brilliant.
The member of staff froze for a second, a look of confusion and horror in her face, as though her brain had momentarily malfunctioned and needed a manual reset. And she said, but the policy very clearly states that you have to ask a member of SLT to remove your jacket.
Unbelievable.
I paused, I watched her face contort and shrivel with a genuine sense of anger and echoed the words of you two. Maybe, just maybe, the policy is a load of
Yes.
Imagine saying that.
Yes.
Safe to say I wasn't contacted again to complete any more invigilation work, but I left with a warmth in my heart that I'd done a small part to sow a seed of doubt in the policy police types of leaders. Thank you for continuing to share common sense ideas, and fingers crossed teachers realise that they have autonomy to push back against being bullied by these specimens.
That's unbelievable. The idea of a miniature, 5-inch Hayden on someone's shoulder, and I'm on the other side, both saying the same thing. It's not the angel or the devil.
Two devils.
That is an unbelievable story, and that's hilarious. And actually, there's an argument to say that's warranted in that case. But that's the ultimate version of what we're talking about in terms of you don't have to just go into if that is an actual problem from an actual adult human to another adult professional
who's doing a job.
There's only one person in the wrong there. If there's only one person in the wrong, and it's that SLT member who's like, you ask an SLT member, do you think I'm a child? What do you mean you ask an SLT? No wonder you think we're preparing you for the real world if that's what you think's a normal aspect of someone's job. Are you insane?
I couldn't believe it.
It's crazy.
I couldn't believe it.
That's one of my favorite emails. I think we get some unbelievable emails.
Yeah, we've got some such good ones. But those ones, I'm glad when I can get them before you see them. I just think, 100%. Oh man, I've got to save it.
It's nice for me to not know what's coming from the podcast every now and then. So
here we go. Couldn't go one podcast without being horrible.
Just saying it's nice every now and then for that to happen. Do get in touch with us. It's our email. What am I saying here? Teach Sleep Repeat pod@gmail.com. Or you can find our Instagram at Teach Sleep Repeat Podcast or TikTok at Teach Sleep Repeat Podcast, and get in touch if you have any confessions, any dilemmas, any stories like that. The more the merrier. And
also follow our personal socials, as we've said now. If you want to see some serious content, follow Dylan's. If you want to see it reposted on mine, follow mine as well. Get involved. Go and
have a look in the bio. We're going to have another very quick jingle before we get into a nice little Q&A from our lovely listeners who've got in touch with us.
Love it.
All right, so sporadically on the Instagram, every now and then I'll say, hit us up with some questions we can answer in the podcast. Did it recently. You guys did not disappoint as always. So do get involved because we do use them. I'm going to start off reading some questions. Some of them are, as always, quite serious, good topics. Some of them are absolutely hilarious nonsense. So we'll get in there. I want to start off with something dead serious. And this, honestly, this question piqued my interest straight away, and I thought, that's such a good question.
Okay.
And this is actually from one of our tutors who we work with.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's
so this question is, do you ever regret becoming a teacher? Was there another career path that you wish you took? And I was like, that's a deep question.
It's really deep. I'm going to try and guess who that is. I'm thinking who that wrote that.
Yeah, I'll tell you then.
That's so hard. Have there been moments where I've regretted it? Probably.
Right.
Because maybe I've had a really stressful day.
Okay, but do you regret becoming a teacher?
I know, that's what I'm saying. Do I no, I don't think I do.
Okay.
I don't think deep down you get base level me. I'm not having a super stressed day. I'm not having a really euphoric day. I don't think I regret it because I very much see this is going to sound really corny, right? But whatever you do in life, right, is just the sum of all your achievements before, isn't it? I feel like I'm happy with where I am right now. I'm really pleased with the stuff we're doing. And I just simply wouldn't be exactly right here in my life situation without everything before it happening. So I don't regret being a teacher.
You wouldn't have a teacher podcast if you weren't a teacher.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a package, isn't it? I find it hard to separate. I find the whole thing hard because if I think about it, if I didn't become a teacher, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have met my partner and had my child.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I find it really hard to separate you. If we're talking purely, nothing changes at all.
Yeah.
Apart from the fact you just chose to go into a different
career. A little bit then, because I do look back and I think classic 80. I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And when I was 21, I'd finished uni. I'd managed to long out another 3 years of not knowing what the hell I wanted to do by doing a media degree.
Yeah.
Right.
By getting into 40 grand worth of debt.
Yeah, getting 40 grand of debt and not knowing what you're doing. And then I was just desperate to find something, in all honesty. And maybe I latched onto it too quick. So there's been lots of moments that I've loved in this career, and I genuinely love teaching kids. I feel like maybe this was meant to be. Maybe this was a career meant to be. Yeah. But could I have, if you value different things, like, I don't know, maybe I'd be in a bigger house, have a bit more money. I could have gone and done mathematics. That was the other thing I was good at. And maybe there was a job that maybe I could have been a successful accountant or something. But
it's just one aspect, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one aspect. And I do genuinely also think in life that it's so easy to believe the grass is greener.
Yeah,
the grass is always greener on the other side, and I constantly see people making decisions, and then 3 years later realizing that they don't feel any more happy. In fact, they have probably maybe even preferred what they were doing before, whether it's like moving to a different location or getting a different job or whatever. Yeah. So I think it was a deep question. I had to kind of explore it out loud with you. I think ultimately I'm going to stick with, I don't regret being a teacher. I have thoroughly enjoyed the majority of this career.
Yeah, completely agree.
What about you?
I agree with you. I don't regret it. Because I absolutely love it. I feel at home when I'm teaching, genuinely. So I might have got that in a different job. I might not have. I don't know. What do I enjoy? I enjoy being creative. And I get to do that in teaching. I get to do that with the podcast. I get to do that on social media, etc. I like the idea of performance. I'm performing all of the time. I love maths. I love quizzes and knowledge, and it's the ultimate amalgamation of everything.
I love being liked by everybody.
I know you do.
You get a lot of that. There's a lot of people around there to like you.
So yeah, ultimately, no, I don't regret it for all the reasons you're saying. But will I do this job forever? No. So I think that's a different question. I think it's easy to conflate the fact that I know I won't teach forever.
No.
And I will choose one day to stop doing it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I don't regret it, though.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? I was sort of thinking, is it sustainable? Will I be teaching for much longer? Honestly, no. Seriously, but I don't regret it. Okay. Go on, tell me who it was. I'm sure they were mine.
It was Chloe.
Chloe, thanks, Chloe. Good question.
I know, Chloe, lovely Chloe. Right, next question. It's 2 for 1, and I'm going to start off with the funny version of the question. Then there's a serious one. This one's from Luke. Is the podcast too focused on teach and not enough on sleep? Both titled equally.
It's focused too much on repeat. We're saying the same things over and over again. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah,
but the real question from Miss M Creates on Instagram: how do you get enough sleep as a teacher? And I thought, okay, actually, these are great questions to put back to back. I mean, we have sleep in the title, Hayden.
Yeah.
As a teacher, let's just take away the fact that we're parents now and sleep's a foregone memory.
Yeah.
Okay.
You ruined my joke.
I'm sorry.
I was going to say step 1, don't have kids.
Yeah. Ignore all that. Let's just go back.
Yeah.
Sleep. How do you get enough sleep? Because we're working late, and again, some people do prefer working in the evenings, etc. I feel like that's a question that's in most careers, it's easy to not get enough sleep.
Yeah.
So how do you?
I don't want to be patronising or condescending because I feel like the answer is quite simple. Of just
but it's good to know because I don't think you're being condescending. Some people do struggle with this.
I think you have to work. If you struggle with it, work exclusively on your boundaries. I think you just have to work on your personal boundaries. You have to make a work-life balance. And if your work-life balance is not there, that it's affecting your sleep, which means it's affecting you right up until the end of your day.
Right.
Then I think that's a wider problem there. That your work is seeping into your life way too much, and there needs to be stricter rules. Everything we talk about all the time on this podcast about getting control of your life and getting control of your work-life balance and learning to say no to things and doing everything that you can do to keep on top of that, I think should be your highest priority if it's affecting your sleep, in all honesty.
So what we're essentially saying here is it's a work problem, not a sleep problem for a lot of people. It's like the act of not being able to sleep. If you struggle with sleeping in general, but you've got time to do it, that you need a sleep specialist.
Yeah, I was going to say, go to the doctors.
Yeah, but if it's impacting because of your work, you have to say no.
Yeah,
and that's the ultimate thing that comes down to us. Like honestly, like that email we just read.
Yeah,
that person decided had a fork in the road. They could have just gone, okay, and carried on with their life, and that person carried on. Or sometimes you take a stand and you don't need to maybe say it like that person did.
Sure,
I think it was brilliant. But same with your sleep. Like if you're not getting enough sleep, you have to turn around and be like, okay, what can I get rid of then? Little things, because I don't think I get enough sleep now, even ignoring the fact I've got a child, because I'll still choose to. A big thing for me is I get annoyed that I don't get my own time as much.
Yeah.
So therefore, I will justify staying up instead of going to bed at 9:30 when I probably should if I need enough sleep. I'll stay up till 11:30 because in my head I'm like, no, I'm going to have those 2 hours because they're my 2 hours, and I don't care if I'm just sat on YouTube watching something, or maybe there's a new show that I'm going to put on in the background, or maybe I'm just sitting doing nothing for a bit or reading a book because that's my time.
Yeah.
But then that detriment to me in the long run because I'm tired the next day.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say my last point here is if you need any words of encouragement, because you know what, it's tough to say no. Not everyone's predisposed to just say no. Maybe that's keeping you up all night because you're thinking, I'm gonna have a conflicting, I'm gonna have a conflict at school tomorrow, and it's really weighing you down. The only encouragement I can give you is that if you feel like it will negatively impact your school or your class because maybe they're not doing as much work as you're doing, I'm telling you right now, tired teachers don't perform as well as well-slept teachers. You need to, being not tired, being energetic is genuinely going to impact your class in a more positive way than it will do if you're like, oh yeah, I did that extra marking, change those slides and change that font, but I am really tired now. So like, it's a good thing not to be tired. You should absolutely set boundaries. You're a better teacher if you have a really healthy work-life balance and have good sleep.
Absolutely.
So try and work towards that on the idea that I'm going to be an even better teacher if I nail this. That's all I can say, really.
Okay, brilliant. Next question. You will know who this is from.
Okay.
Pressure. If you were a kebab filling, what would you be and why?
Do you know what the real problem is here? There's so many people that take the mick out of me that I don't know who this is from. I don't know.
I'm going to leave it a mystery. And if they're listening, they can reply and reach out to you on your personal Instagram, Mr. Hayden Stevens.
So should we just repeat this extremely serious question?
Very, very serious question. If you were a kebab filling, because this is the Teach, Sleep, Kebab, Repeat podcast.
Come on.
If you were a kebab filling, what would you be and why?
Oh, I think I'm going to be the chicken cheese.
What, the actual chicken is?
I'm the chicken cheese, baby. The main bit, the bit that everybody likes. Okay, leave me alone. Chicken cheese, grilled to perfection. Mr. Kebab. Head there now. Sorry, it's a promo itself. Just been working on it. All right.
Oh gosh, I would be the wrap or the pitta because I hold everything together. That's my one.
Well done.
Okay.
Well done. Who was it from? Come on.
No. We're gonna have to reach out, and if Hayden can't get it, you got to work it out, man. Right. Next one. Again, this was a theme of a few questions. One of them was worded like, "What's the best way to get rid of?" Okay, so that was hilarious.
Right. Okay.
But the idea here is, if you have a toxic boss at work, okay, whether that's school or otherwise, and you can't quit. Yeah. Like, I'll quit and go to somewhere. You can't for whatever reason. There's not a job somewhere else. You need this money. It's just not a situation where you can quit.
Okay.
But you have a toxic boss. What is your advice to that person? Like, because ultimately, the email we read earlier, that guy could do that because he's walking out the door and never coming back again.
Yeah, no consequences.
What is genuinely your advice to someone now who's saying, guys, I listen to your stuff and you are you are right, that is toxic. But I work here and this pays my mortgage and I can't go anywhere else. I'm staying for at least 3 more years. What can I do?
Fight fire with fire, baby. Out-toxic them all the way to the moon. No. That's a very big question, I think, and you've got. Okay, firstly, it's probably going to be mostly case by case, depending on what the toxic behavior is. Like with some situations, it might be that it's just like mildly toxic and you can just have a conversation and squash it. The awkwardness with that conversation might be enough for them to be like, oh, I didn't really think about this before. If they're being ultra, ultra toxic, I think you have to go down the proper channels.
Union.
I think you have to just do it. I think you just have to. Sometimes we don't want to because we're like, it's like when you're at school, right? There's this culture, I feel like, of like being a narc. It's like, oh, you're the one telling, oh, don't be why are you such a telltale? Yeah. Don't be the one that tells and it spoils everything. There's this feeling, I feel like, for our culture where you grow up, and I still have that in me somewhat, where it's like, I don't know, you don't want to be the one that's like going to rocking the boat and challenging it. Oh, just leave it. Why are you telling on them? Why are you going to a union? I feel like that now, and I'm quite confident. So I can imagine a lot of people feel that pressure of, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that person that does that. But you just have to. When it gets to the point that it's impacting your life and probably everyone else's, if there's a really toxic person at the leadership point, then you've just got to be brave and be like, cool, I'm going to go above you. You're irrelevant to me now because you're being toxic and that needs to be taken care of. I can't talk to you. So I'm going to go through all the proper channels, go to the unions, go to the governors, go to the local council, whatever it is that is in your power to do, and really challenge it and stick up for yourself and say, hi, I am speaking on behalf of a lot of people at this school. This is what we're challenging. This is unacceptable. It needs to change. You'd hold me accountable because you're my boss in this job. I'm holding you accountable now because you're not doing your job properly. And we're just, at the end of the day, we walk out of this school and we're just people. It's easy to put people on pedestals sometimes. Yeah. Oh, they've got this big important job. It is just a human being though. They're just another human being going home.
Yep.
Like they're happy to challenge you.
Yeah.
and pick you up, you should be happy to challenge them, pick them up, because they're just doing a job like you. So fill yourself with a bit of confidence and just do it.
It's those two prongs for me. Prong one, get people with you to do some kind of thing in a group. That's always good for people, because if it's a truly toxic workplace, then it is going to be for a lot of people. Get a group of 6, 7, 8 of you who say this isn't acceptable because of that, numbers. Or you do less of something else. And I would push back on the question itself where it says I can't quit. My argument would be that there's going to be very few situations where you actually can't quit.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's scary to quit sometimes, but there'll be different jobs. If it is that toxic, it does actually get to the point where you do just have to quit, because there are other jobs you can find. Yeah. If it's that bad and you've tried everything else, your life is more important at the end of the day.
That's true. But get it. You totally understand that can be really hard. You can be in a very tricky situation. It might mean that quitting is okay. It's not immediate, but it might take a year or two. You can certainly start looking.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. Let's do one more.
All right.
What are your thoughts on teacher recruitment and the process around it, especially day-long interviews?
So, as in, putting to context, I'm going for a job at a school. Just that the interview, that process of going to a day.
So they might, for example, say, I think specifically like what should it look like, because you get them quite different. Some schools it will be you come in you teach half an hour of a maths lesson and have a 15-minute interview. Other schools, it's all day. You've got to write a policy. You've got to run an assembly. You've got to meet student council groups. You've got to then have some people sit a SAT test.
Yeah.
So where's the line here? Like how in depth should an interview process be for finding a good teacher?
I think it's a tricky one, because I actually don't think we should put a specific measure on it. I think leaders have very different skill sets, right? I think some leaders are unbelievably adept at understanding someone's personality in 5 minutes.
Recruitment, basically.
In recruitment, basically. And other people, it takes them a bit longer to get to the same result. So I don't want to penalize people and say, leader, it should be this exact thing. And if you can't do it tough, you've got to employ someone that you've got to take a gamble. There's probably a cap somewhere. I think a full day is probably the maximum. I think it gets a bit out.
So just genuinely of interest, you think a full day's interview is acceptable for a teacher role?
Yeah, I think I genuinely think it is. I think because it's such a permanent role,
Isn't every job?
Yeah, in a way, but I think with teaching, you're very locked in. Like it's you can't, in a lot of private enterprises, you can just sort of fire people if they're not meeting simple KPIs and things. Right. Like you're not firing a teacher for many reasons, realistically, especially even if they're underperforming in their job. You're not firing a teacher. You've got to be really, really sure when you hire a teacher. I don't necessarily, if it was me, I don't think I'd need a whole day of interviews. I think I'd want to see someone teach for maybe half an hour and then have a good conversation with them. And that personally for me would probably be enough to judge enough about their character.
It's like all you're doing with the teaching is making sure they can't teach, because it's really hard to judge on a one-off lesson. Yeah. Someone could pull out a blinder, but you don't really know what you're getting day to day. So I guess my only pushback here would be like, how useful are the things you're doing? Yeah. Everything you do has to be for a reason, in my opinion.
Yeah, for a reason, for sure.
And alongside that is, I'm going to ask you now, do you think a school has a responsibility to streamline that as much as they can, knowing that there are people out there who honestly apply for like 8 schools in a row, don't get it, and are putting in basically 2 weeks of free work on interviews if they're all day long? Or do you just think that's just the game, whatever?
Yeah, I think I'm probably got a differing opinion of what you think.
No, I do, yeah.
But I think it's pretty much the game. I think a day is probably pushing on being a bit excessive, but I don't think it's that crazy really when you're looking for a permanent teaching job. That I imagine on average, I don't know what the average is, but I imagine it's years that people stay in these jobs. I don't think a day is unnecessary. But certainly if you are going from one school to another, I know that those days are generally paid as well, because you'll be paid. I can't remember how it works, but I'm pretty sure you don't have to take an unpaid day to go do an interview at another school. I'm sure that either that school subsidizes it for your school because you've been at theirs, or it gets paid. So I don't even think there's a.
Well, if you haven't got a job yet,
if you haven't got a job yet, I don't think you do. Yeah, I think you just have to take the hit. It's just unpaid, but presumably you haven't got a job now anyway. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not too bothered about it. I imagine most schools don't do whole days anyway, but if they do, I'd probably just challenge a little bit and be like, okay,
would you want to work
there? It depends what it is, because if they're justifying the whole day as, well, you're applying for this really intricate job that is like you are going to be writing policies and you are going to be the leader of this subject and you're going to be in the classroom 3 days a week and you're going to be a deputy for 1 day. And they were like, we need a whole day to explore this. I'd be like, fair enough. But if it's just a classroom teacher,
right, okay,
I would. Okay, there you go. There's my line. There's my line. If it was just a classroom teacher,
don't be so rude to me.
And no other roles, right? You're just going in.
Does that exist?
Classroom teacher. Yeah, okay, yeah. Then I think a day is excessive. Okay. Half a day maximum to have the teaching part and an interview and a conversation to get to judge characters would be completely acceptable.
Yeah, my view on interviews are they're so limited anyway. Like you could do stuff, bar them coming to work for you for 2 weeks. You can't learn that much from an interview, whether it's an hour, 2 hours, or a day. I think the big thing for me in terms of if I was recruiting for a school, I would want to see what they're like around children.
Yeah.
Whether that's, part of the process would be going on a tour of the school, maybe at break time.
Sure.
Do they interact at all with the kids? Do they look like the kids are below them kind of thing? Like just the basic interaction, a little bit of teaching.
Maybe that's why they do a full day then to get
potentially
all of those elements out.
But I feel like you can do that in a couple of hours. Because again, teaching as well, I'd be like, look, I don't need you to teach a whole maths lesson.
Yeah.
All I want to see is your demeanor in front of the children. Like that, okay, cool. I can get that over in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
That genuinely.
Yeah.
And then the big one for me comes at the interview process itself. I think that's where I would be really getting an insight into their personality. And I suppose for me, that would hold the biggest weight in terms of, again, of course, everyone can fake every part of an interview, but you can really dive into their answers and their understandings of stuff. And I think that would be important. I think writing a policy.
Yeah.
Come on.
I think, I feel like this is a long time ago now. And I can't remember if someone's told me this or I actually did it. That's how bad my memory is. But for an interview for a school, it was me. I had to do a piece of writing.
About how everyone likes me.
Yeah, how everyone likes me. I had to actually do a piece of writing, like literally just a piece of writing to show that I was competent.
Wow.
At English. That's it.
Okay, so there'll be people saying, yeah, okay, so what?
Yeah.
So you're good. Yeah, if you're good, you've got nothing to worry about. You've only got something to worry about if you're crap at writing.
Yeah.
And it's like, my gut instinct is don't you dare insult me. But actually, you do need to be able to have a certain level.
Yeah.
It's like when people get annoyed, like they made the teachers sit and do SAT papers. And I'm like, okay, I understand how that is very condescending for a lot of people. But if you score 30 out of 50 on a SATs paper and you're a teacher teaching the SATs curriculum, that is a problem.
Yeah, that is terrible.
Like,
we should be doing
honestly, every year 6 teacher should get full marks in the SATs.
Yep.
You should.
Yep.
Of course you should.
Because you're teaching every single content strand in that SATs paper.
Yeah. So like when people are like, oh yeah, but of course I don't know that thing. You should be a year 6 teacher then.
Yeah. And if you don't know it, you need to learn it sort of quickly before you teach it,
oh,
really.
I'm a surgeon and I don't know how to do the lungs. I'm sorry. You have got to do a lung operation though.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, it's quite an extreme analogy, but yeah.
No.
I know what you mean.
I mean is, I feel like people will really not like that point I'm making, some people. No. But all I'm saying is, but there is a line.
Yeah.
Like, I don't expect a year 6 teacher to know everything about the Maya that they're going to teach in the afternoon. That's too far. I think that's not necessary. I think you should teach yourself stuff before you teach the lesson and be at a certain level. But I do think in general, you need a really solid understanding of the Key Stage 2 curriculum, especially in your maths and your English, which you teach every single day. I think there has to be a line somewhere.
I think with a lot of year 6 teachers, just to push back on this a little bit more, I think with English, maybe, there are lots of little nuances that you pick up by being a year 6 teacher. And maybe when you start the year, maybe you do year 6 for the first time, right?
Well, something you might go into year 6.
Yeah, so I don't think it's objectively bad that they might not know all of it straight away. But I think as long as they make a conscious effort that by the end of that year, they've always been one step ahead of the kids with the things.
Yeah, at least, yeah.
I do think it's better to know all of it because so much of education is like passive things.
Yeah,
you drop in before you've even taught that thing.
Yeah.
There'll be some things that you might not know that you think, oh, it would have been useful if I knew that 2 months ago. Actually, now I think about it. Now, when we did that bit of writing, I kind of wish I knew a bit more about passive voice so I could have really referenced the fact this author kept doing it.
It makes you a much better teacher.
Yeah.
To have that big knowledge, and you build that over time. And I'm happy to admit that. I just think there has to be a line where it's like, okay, you need to be able to complete a year 6 maths SATs paper to be a teacher.
Yeah.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
Like, are we pretending you like, come on, you don't really? Are you going to tell me you don't? Like, oh, I'm not very good with time problems. Yeah. Why are you a teacher then? Yeah. Genuinely. Yeah. I'm not sure. There has to be a line. There has to be a line. And again, you can be not very good at it. Please don't misconstrue what I'm saying. You're allowed to be less confident with maths and not very good at it. But you have to have a way of working out the answer because you're going to be teaching kids to do the same thing. Yeah. I think there's power in being a teacher actually who didn't like maths and wasn't very good at it, but is now a teacher because the power is how are we going to get over that and still be able to do it? So you have to be able to do it. Yeah. It's simple.
Yeah, no, I think so as well. Maths is different to English as well. I think
yeah, sure.
Sort of long term, I do think it's better if you've got a year 4 teacher that genuinely knows the end of year 6 expectations really well and they know exactly how to do all of those things. Yeah. I do think it probably bleeds into their teaching a little bit. Does it make the massive impact? Not really, but I think it is a good thing to be able to do. Definitely. But anyway, back to the original sort of point, really, just to wrap it up.
Let's wrap this up.
Wrapping it up, like ultimately, I don't think there's much leg to stand on to be like really anti whole day interviews. I think you could choose not to go to that school if you think that's an indicator of them being a bit over the top, but I don't really think it's that much of a Mickey take.
I don't like
day interview.
I don't like them. That's the fact then, because I said it.
Fair enough. There you go. It's true. Everything I said, redact it. All gone, because I want to be liked by Dylan. So I need to have the same opinion. No, guys, I just think them out.
Thank you so much for listening. Go and follow us. Do all that good stuff. Leave a rating. Blah blah blah. And we'll see you next time.
Blah blah blah.